Alhamdulillah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Ya ibadallah wa nafsi itaqullah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I greet you as we are fortunate to once again make it to another Jumu'ah, while many others were waking up hoping that they can make it to another Jumu'ah, where there were some hoping to make it to their first Jumu'ah, hoping this would be the time that they would make Jumu'ah, and Allah had decreed that they wouldn't make it. But they get rewarded for their intentions just like we get rewarded for our intentions. And for the believer, their intentions are better than their actual deeds. So if we strive and do right, if we are believers, then our intentions are better than our actual deeds. And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows our intentions. That's why we strive constantly to purify our intentions. So these gatherings of ours are another opportunity for us to be in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to come closer together as a community. So we must always purify our intentions, because this is something big. And these are our most important gatherings that we come together. Each one of us has a duty to make it more sound, to make it correct, to make sure that we are doing what we are supposed to be doing. There's no, like one of my teachers says, Islam is not a spectator sport, Nobody gets to just sit back. Everybody has input, everybody has value, everybody has a duty to make sure that we are doing our best collectively, not just individually, as we try to build for the next generation, because that is not promised, There are still many masjids that constantly across the country are closing, that people thought they would, wouldn't see that day. People took for granted what they had, They took for granted the brotherhood, the sisterhood that they had. They took for granted the masjid that they had, the peace that they had at the masjid, the peace of having their own masjid, the peace of going there to pray, the peace of going there to pray in Ramadan, break fast in Ramadan, different type of gatherings that they had that the masjid is for learning, for learning different classes, fiqh and seerah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, learning Arabic. They took for granted. Now they don't have that opportunity in their own communities to have their own masjid. So may Allah allow us not to take for granted what we have. And what we have is truly a gift, and it's a trust, It's a trust. We're only here for a short time, Some of us shorter than others, We all have a role to play for this to come to the next generation, so the next generation can be better than us and take it further than us, So all praises are due to Allah, who exists without a place, without a direction, and is not in need of a place or a direction or any non-befitting attribute that belongs to created things, as Allah is exalted above the attributes of creation. Allah is the creator of all things, and the creator is not like the created. And these attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are eternal, before time, what it was called before time attributes. So they do not exist, do not exist within space or time. All his attributes, his actions are eternal, pre-eternal, as they would say. They existed before creation. So there's no change in the perfection of Allah. All his attributes are attributes of perfection. So we only ascribe Allah to the attributes of perfection. And any attribute of creation is non-befitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has conveyed the truth for this. He has delivered the message in full, as all the messengers. There's nothing that he has left out. There's nothing that he has left out. He has done his duty. And who would be truthful Who will be trustworthy if the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not? Who will be trustworthy if those who were the best of creation sent by Allah to mankind, if they were not trustworthy, who will be trustworthy? So we bear witness that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has delivered the message in full and all that was to convey, and it's our job to seek to understand the message, understand and implement it in our lives, and constantly grow to implement it better, and recognize that we are falling short. For anybody that thinks they are not falling short, they are definitely falling short by a big measure. As the pious, those who were the best of following the prophetic advice, the best of understanding the messages that they always saw themselves as falling short. They always saw themselves as falling short. They always, they never saw themselves as knowing enough, They never ascribed themselves with having knowledge. They always were willing to learn and travel. You saw some of the companions, I remember a story reading about Abdullah bin Masud, famous companion, great knower of the Quran, the tafsir, when the ayahs were revealed, what they were revealed about. He said he would travel a great distance to learn. He learned like maybe 70-something surahs directly from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said he would travel a great distance to learn from somebody, if they knew something about it that he didn't know. That was the attitude that was reflected in their students from the next generation and so on, that the next generation would be trained and would be taught to have that understanding, to continue to learn, to continue to grow. The more that we learn, the more that we realize that we don't know. The more that we realize there's more to know, and we'll stay stuck, And sometimes we can be stuck in a bad place and not know it, That's why we have to always be willing to learn. And just like this building is, as far as our community, is that structure where it should be. The masjids were always the institution of building the community, of learning, It's not just a place where we come, that where Muslims come, just to gather and not see each other, We strive to make it a place of learning, a center of learning, and that's going to take a lot of effort and sacrifice. So we all have to all admit that we have to do our part to help that, Just like our jobs, I was thinking about an incident on my job as it relates, because on our jobs, whatever somebody has, profession they have, trade, career, whatever type of job they have, whatever type of profession they have, most of us are willing to learn what it takes on the job to acquire a better position, to gain more money. If we're honest, we're willing to do that. And depending on the amount of money, we'll be more willing, quicker than not, to learn something on a job, to advance on that job, to make life our life in this dunya easier for ourselves, more enjoyable, to put our children in a better position. We're willing to learn, even as we advance in age, And in our jobs, there are different structures in place. There's different blueprints in place. There's different company codes, There's different plans that you have for learning a job, It's set, It's not something you just go in and guess, They have documentation, they have training, which more documentation. They have regulation, where our jobs are regulated by different, you have OSHA, that regulates in the job industry and makes sure that things are done safely, and they pride themselves on making workplaces safer without adversely affecting profits, adversely affecting the company's ability to stay in business while still making things safe. And it's regulated, People come in and actually inspect, There's a system in place, There's a structured way, and we accept that. We accept different regulations, different, whatever type of industry it is, have different state, federal regulations, city ordinances, different ways of doing things that are accepted, that you accept with no problem, that you agree with, that you even yourself might train other people in how this particular task, how this particular job functions, with no problem. So just think about our religion, which is the most important, even more important than our job, Why wouldn't we have that approach? Where is a structure, a certain way of doing things, that is detailed, that people are certified, trained, But that is the case. That has been the case, That with our deen, somebody can't just say what they want, It has always been something called a chain of narration, where that person has learned from a living teacher, not just a book. They learn from a living teacher. And I was thinking about, because it was something kind of scary for myself initially, when we talk about, because it's dangerous, and it's dangerous whenever you trying to do the job that you're currently doing or learn a new job. And there was a guy who was loading trucks, with a forklift, loading trucks, Something he, I don't know how long has he been there, but something he has been accustomed to doing, It's a daily thing. He has his checklist before he goes and he inspects, what he can inspect on the inside of the trailer, make sure it's secure. He makes sure it's secure before he starts loading, But he went into this particular trailer and the floor collapsed on him. He dropped down in his trailer and hurt himself. Just think you're in this big machine, that weighs tons, and you just, the ground underneath you is not supporting you. And it happened so fast you don't even realize it. You didn't see it. No signs of it. They said, it was nothing more that he can do to really make himself safe. He from his responsibility, he checked what he needed to check. But it's still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will for him to be in that trailer at that particular time and not somebody else. No matter what you do, if it's decreed for you to have some type of accident on your job, it's going to happen, Just like, but as far as our deen, it's even more dangerous for us to not learn what we need to learn, because we're talking about our souls, And whatever difficulty we might face in doing that, it's going to happen to us. We can't avoid any type of misfortune while trying to learn and while trying to implement the religion. Just like we can't avoid what's decreed for us on our workplaces, but we still do it. Because after that, we didn't shut down. No, but we didn't shut down work. People are, okay, I'm not going to do that. You still what you had to do. You recognize the potential danger, but you gotta make money. You gotta support your family. You recognize it's part of the job. You recognize it's different dangers in any part of the job, but you do what you have to do. So that's what we did. We went on, But as far as our deen, we know no matter what precautions we take, if Allah wants to if Allah decreed for us to have an accident on our way here, it's going to happen. But we have a duty to be here. We have a responsibility to help build a community. We have a responsibility to be here as an obligation, to fulfill the obligation whenever we hope that we are rewarded for that. And any other thing that we do that involves, seeking knowledge, or people travel, I went out of state, just to be in the class with my teacher, and I'm, somebody that is definitely falling short, that needs to do better. But you take those risks to learn something, that you may not have the opportunity to learn in your local environment, and anything can happen along the way. But you recognize the importance of continuing to learn. You recognize the importance of learning so you can grow and improve your state with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that none of us should feel secure about. So individually and collectively, we have to help each other, in that process of learning, despite whatever difficulties, whatever dangers are, and recognize, that there are certain ways of learning. And if we don't have the that prerequisite knowledge to be able to teach somebody, we can point them out to somebody, and that may involve somebody having to take a trip somewhere to learn something. But the more, as that process goes, the more that we learn, then we can make the process easier by being able to teach that locally, as opposed to somebody having to travel somewhere to get it. So it benefits us as a whole. But that's only if we respect, if we respect that is a system, to learning this religion, is a certain way that has been accepted, that has been verified. Somebody can't just go to a book alone and learn all that they need to know. That's not how it works. The book is not the primary source itself. The primary source is the living teacher. The book is the secondary source, what the teacher uses to aid. That's why if somebody is learning with a teacher, and that teacher has learned properly, if they have fit within that structure that has been regulated, for over thousands of years, they have been certified to teach that, they are going to tell the student that take what I'm saying, because I have studied this book. They have studied the books thoroughly, that if it's some type of publishing error, some type of translation error, they can correct it. So they will correct their copy of the book by what their teacher is saying. But that involves a trust to do that. But on our jobs, we have no problem trusting somebody, that's not even Muslim. They're telling you how to do this. We trust them with our lives. We trust them with our safety. We trust them with our, our making our income that's going to provide our families. We trust them, without questions, But we can't have a problem trusting somebody who is, sent to us, Because anybody that Allah puts in your way, a teacher that is good, Allah has sent them to you from Himself, to help you. So somebody that has been sent to us, but we have to seek out knowledge. Knowledge doesn't, it's a famous statement that knowledge doesn't come to you, you have to go to it. So, but anybody that has been sent to us, we should take that as a blessing, as a gift from Allah, as a mercy from Allah, as that person doing us a favor. And that teacher will, if they're right, they will take the student as a favor from Allah for themselves. That Allah has sent that student as a favor to them. So it works together. But we take that teacher as somebody that's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we trust you, we can verify, we can use our intellect. I know as far as our people, we have a situation where we are so used to being lied to and manipulated, by others, by people trying to give us Islam to enslave us, not to free us. That even when the knowledge is verified, correct, beneficial, that there's still people who try to teach us, to make us their slaves. But we never, as one of my teachers reminded, we never suspend our intellect for nobody. We never disregard our intellect for nobody. So somebody that really, we just have to have those amongst us, because everybody's not going to be able to learn from everybody, but we have those amongst us who can go much farther than where we going, but we have to support them. If they get it, they can speak the language that we can understand, and they can do it with love. Then it can gain our trust, because we have a big trust issues amongst us as far as learning, because we've been lied to so much, we've been manipulated so much in the name of the deen. where everybody wants us to be their slave to help their cult, their organization, when Islam is bigger than that, you mean. And when Islam is about transforming lives, transforming communities, transforming people. And our people are in much need of a transformation. But it is a big lack of trust, a big section of us who almost have given up, because of all that has happened, of all that they have seen. So it has to take those amongst us who are coming with love and are not calling us to suspend our intellect. Because use your intellect. Anybody that tries to get you to accept them thinking for you, that's somebody you should run from. So at all stages, that teacher's going to teach you in a way to use your intellect. So you can accept it for themselves and not because they're telling it to you. So you can be able to put it in your own words, what they're telling you. And that is possible. We have to, but first we have to recognize that we have a need to continue to learn that we are not where we need to be. And nobody's successful by thinking that, Nobody has ever been successful by thinking that they have all that they need to know, Those who change are those who recognize that I might need to humble myself and learn and be willing to sacrifice to learn. That has always been a model for those who are successful, to have that a certain etiquettes with knowledge. And it starts with recognizing that you come with an empty cup. You are always willing to learn and relearn, repeat, go back. That's why I know people that are 60, 70 years old, and they've been through it like some of you might have been through it, where they've been deceived and lied to in the name of the deen, and they feel like, I'm starting over again. But something in them that was a gift from Allah that I need to learn and relearn. So I'll just finish up briefly in the second part. But Alhamdulillah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Ya ibadallah wa nafsi ittaqullah. Alhamdulillah. And so one of those things, because it's very important to stress, our need to always be willing to learn, to be willing to examine what we think we know, what we think we should know, to examine that, to really use our intellects in doing so, and we have to have a hope that things can get better, and that's something that only Allah is going to give to us. But it takes a certain amount of commitment. It takes a certain amount of humbleness, that that we don't claim to have, for us to get that, to get some type of burning desire to have that approach that we're gonna make this better for the next generation. We're gonna take it forward. That's every good teacher, every good father, every good elder, they wants their student, their son, to take things further than them, for whatever it is, So we have to have that mindset, We have to have. So it's going to also we have to develop a even stronger love for each other. A stronger connection with each other, a stronger connection to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his deen. And I know, it's an effort. This is, alhamdulillah, for holding on. And in this city, where, it's tough for people coming into Islam, and they think it's the way it's supposed to be for for black Muslims to be somewhere in the back, and they think that's how it's supposed to be, And they have, somebody new, they have some pride. Yeah, I'm Muslim. They just feel good just to come to a mosque, But they need, just like we need a certain environment, Everybody else has their environment that is, nurturing for their success. So, alhamdulillah, that this mosque has been able to survive a lot, by just being available. So that's a gift from Allah in itself, And we all have a part, to play to try to, make it continue to last and make it so the succeeding generations can have an easier transition and take it further. As far as like one of the things you see with teachers with love, they're gonna just be speaking those examples. I was thinking of an example of a teacher talking about putting things in so we can see it. Because if somebody's trying to truly explain something to you, they're not trying to get you to just accept it, without using your mind. Because somebody like that, they're just trying to get you to be a part of their group or something like that. It's for themselves and not for you. But somebody that's really teaching you, they're trying to show you so you can see the example. And one of the examples that one of my teachers gave was as far as and it ties in as far as building and generational building. He talked about like their masjid has a community garden, and before getting to it and planting everything, they tested the soil, because around that neighborhood, like many neighborhoods, in this city, other cities that we know, there's gentrification processes, and a lot of those homes, older homes, had the lead paint, and when they tear out those homes, the lead goes into the soil. So if they test the soil, you can find high levels of lead in the soil. So if somebody was to grow crops directly in that soil, the lead will get into the crops. So they tested their soil, and it was elevated levels of lead. So they told them, you should get the raised beds, to plant, and that's what they went to, So our and he tied in as far as building our generations like that. We have to build on that type of raised beds where our environment is a toxic environment in different ways, So we have to use our intellects. We have to use, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to be able to build accordingly. Because we don't want to poison the next generation. And he was talking about his, two of his kids who had lead poison from one of the homes, to the point where one of his sons, was deaf because of it. They couldn't figure out anything wrong, structurally with his ear. That's why when they tested two of the kids, they had lead poison, and he became deaf because of that. So, but this environment, our environments, our inner city, urban environments, are toxic, and it's a worse type of toxicity because we're talking about souls, and that type of toxicity is worse than a physical toxicity. So we have to change. We have to plan in such a way that fits us. And even people that go study overseas, and this point was reminding me that even the people that go to study, say to somebody goes, I'm going to this well-known, it's a great place. It's a verified certified place for learning the deen, but they're being taught in a way not for here, you mean. So you have to be able to be taught in a way that they can apply it here for us. Not, you mean, because they're taught according to their environment. Overseas, you mean, that it doesn't have the same situation. When we have a certain toxic environment where we have to alter the way that we produce, the way that we nurture the next generation, the way that we set the foundation for the next generation. It's specific to us, so we need a specific way of doing it. You know what I mean? So that's why nobody outside of us can lead us. You mean different people can learn? We can learn from, but it has to be in a way. It has to be in a way that's suitable for our environment. You know what I mean? So I definitely wouldn't discount learning, because if you're going to miss out if you're only willing to learn from somebody that looks like you. But whoever is teaching has to teach in a way that you can be able to apply it here in your reality, because their reality doesn't fit our reality. And it is most of us, not everybody's going to need to learn like that, but that's why when you have those teachers, you support them and make sure, that they are learning the right way, that when they come back, because most of us are gonna easily learn from somebody amongst us, but that takes our support. We all have a role to play in that, and that's a very crucial thing, to produce, learn teachers, and even have the aspiration to produce our own scholars who can bring what they learn and fit it into our context, in our environment, in our heavily saturated lead soil environment. And that way we can safely produce a generation that gets to grow, and produce their fruits safely, that's not poisonous to them, that's not going to kill them, because even good knowledge, if not taught correctly, will damage us, and ruin us. So that's all I really wanted to share for today. But we continue to evaluate ourselves and truly examine ourselves and truly use our intellect. Study history, study the history of different Islamic eras, different Islamic societies. Study history. Use our intellect in this process, of seeing what we need to do for ourselves individually and collectively to be able to improve ourselves, to even start that process of learning, start that process of learning, of relearning, So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والأحياء منهم والأموات. السلام عليكم. قامت الصلاة.